But having head knowledge is one thing, but being able to apply it in a literal sense is something completely different. Like getting into the habit of going somewhere and being able to reflect on what you've learned and maybe the skills that you would have obtained. Second year me was just very ambitious. And it's so interesting because you get so much insight from those questions that you asked and found in people's responses with regards to placement is the attitude that they had. Hi guys, welcome to my lifestyle and academia channel. My name is Agapé, like the love. If you're new here, then welcome. This is a safe space, but if you're not, welcome back to my channel. As you guys can tell by the title of this video, I'm going to be talking about going on placement and all the tips that you need to know before going on your either community placement, hospital placement, industry placement, whatever. So yeah, let's get into it. People have wanted to know any tips and things like that with regards to going on placement, and so I figured, you know what, let's do it. I just came back from going on a 2-week community pharmacy placement, so a lot of the knowledge and like things that I wanted to share with you guys is like a lot of it is still fresh in my brain, fresh in my memory, so I figured why not make this video and yeah, talk to you guys a little bit more about going on placement. Before we start, I do want to thank the sponsors of today's video. Today's video is sponsored by Picmonic. If you haven't heard of Picmonic, where have you been? Picmonic is a great tool that I've been using for the past almost 8 months now, and on Picmonic they have 2-minute long videos that take very complex concepts in pharmacology or in just anything that you're studying. For me, I use it predominantly for pharmacology, but it takes a lot of complex ideas and shortens them into these like bite-sized, very engageable videos in which you can obtain the knowledge. It's really great for active recall. They also do quizzes towards the end after learning like a bit about a topic, but I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit more about Picmonic as I go on in the video. But yeah, so yeah, community pharmacy. Also guys, I have my iPad because I have some notes. Whenever I make a video like this, I don't want to just ramble. I want the points to be concise. I want what I'm saying to make sense to you guys, so that's why I have this iPad that I'm looking down on. But my first point about community or just any type of placement that you're going on is, the firstly is you need to be there. And I don't just mean being there physically. Obviously it would be good that you're there, that you show up on time, that you have a good rapport with the people that you're there with, whether it is having a like being smartly dressed in a uniform, respecting the closing and beginning times, not being too cheeky about arriving late or leaving early, unless they say you can if you have to catch a bus or something like that. But yeah, when I say being there, I mean being present, being engaged, being excited about learning. I say this to say that a lot of the time when you go on placement, you get as much as you give. So if you are going into placement being excited about learning new things, excited about working with your colleagues, excited about understanding more about pharmacy and more about what your degree has in mind. And the thing is, this could be about pharmacy placement, but this could also be about any kind of like healthcare placement that you go on. You want to be engaged, you want to be excited about the work that you're doing, because guess what, engagement and excitability, that like rubs off on other people. It shows that you want to be there, it shows that you want to learn, it shows that you are active in your education, active in your pursuits. I've spoken to so many different people who've either really enjoyed placement or who've dreaded placement, and one of the core things that I've found in people's responses with regards to placement is the attitude that they had. If you come to placement, oh pardon, I'm getting excited, I have this because I want to drink water. If you come to placement super grouchy, you want the day to end before the day has even begun, your colleagues are going to take that into consideration, and there might be like cool opportunities that they could get you to be a part of, but they might not want to do that because the energy that you're bringing is not one that shows like, oh, I'm here, I want to learn, I want to be excited about my future. And so the first point that I would give you guys, which might seem like very simple or like very obvious, is be there. And when I say there, I mean be there, be engaged and be on it. That is point numero uno. Point number 2 is ask questions. And I think when people say like no question is a silly question, I didn't understand it until I went on placement. And it's so true, no question is a silly question. And the thing about asking questions is that it shows that, number one, like as I said in the first bit, being engaged. When you ask questions, it shows that you are concentrating, that you are even on placement trying to improve your learning. So if you see a drug that comes up a few times, ask like, oh, can you just remind me of what this drug does? Or ask the pharmacist about their career trajectory. This is something that like no one told me, but allows the pharmacist to like tell you so much. So when I was on placement, there were a few locums. The first placement that I went on when I was in second year, and I would just ask the locums like, why are you a locum? How long have you been a locum for? Like, what did you do before this? Do you prefer hospital pharmacy? Do you prefer industry? Have you ever been in industry? Do you want to do this long term? Do you have any other hobbies? Anything that they can tell me. And it's so interesting because you get so much insight from those questions that you ask them. Like, have you worked in other community pharmacies before? Like, which company do you think really puts their pharmacist first? Which companies do you think really care about their pharmacist and really care about the people? What environment would you say is the most work-life balance friendly? So many things that I've gained from going on placement that didn't have anything to do with, number one, like the drugs. Was just like gaining so much life experience from talking to people and getting all of that knowledge that like somebody who's been a pharmacist for like 20 years is able to impart on you. And they want to do that. Like the pharmacy manager wants to engage with you, and also they are really happy when you ask them questions. Like, people love to talk about themselves, so if you give them an opportunity to share more about themselves, not only are they able to reminisce or give you insight, but you're also able to gain so much from that. Aside from just like asking questions about the people, also just asking questions to yourself about what you're learning. And it kind of brings on to my third point with regards to bringing a book with you. My third point would be to bring a book. And the reason why I say bring a book is that when you go on placement, you would want to make notes about things that you see or things that you hear. And sometimes people use their phones, which, I don't know guys, like it just doesn't seem right to be on your phone. Like, you might be taking a really important note, but when you're on your phone, especially if customers or patients come in and they're having a consultation and they see you on your phone, it's gonna seem like you don't have anything else better to do. Like, what are you doing? So I had a book with me, and I'll actually take videos of the book in detail so you guys can see what I mean by this. But I had a book with me when I went on placement, and literally I wrote everything that I saw, everything that I didn't understand. So you can ask questions not just to the people but to yourself, for you to go back and reflect on that. Because after you go on placement, a lot of the times you're gonna have to write like a reflective essay on that to show that you were able to engage on placement. That's what we do at my university. But like, getting into the habit of going somewhere and being able to reflect on what you've learned and maybe the skills that you would have obtained, or you saw an example of a consultation that you were a part of and it was really interesting because of XYZ. You just have recently been learning about contraceptive and you were able to do be a part of an emergency contraceptive consultation, and writing that down. One, because again, it helps you with being able to like reflect about what you went on, and like, you might not remember everything that they had said in that moment when you go back, and if you didn't write it down. So being able to write it down in your own words, what people are saying, maybe the pharmacist says something that's interesting, you write it down. Maybe a patient comes in with an interesting problem with the condition, write it down, because in a week or 2 weeks time you've had so many different examples of cases. It might be quite hard for you to like remember, like, oh, what were they talking about in this thing, what were they talking. But if you have it written down, you can just flick back to your book and be like, oh, on this day I did this, on this day I did this, on this day I did this. Like, so this was the emergency contraception that I got to visit. Obviously there's no patient information on there because it's sensitive, but I just got a picture of it and I stuck it down and then I annotated it myself, so it shows that you're not only engaging but you're doing your own learning. And then every day, if I saw some drugs that I was unfamiliar about, I would write drugs to research, dot dot dot, jot them down. And to be honest, some of these drugs I did not research, but the fact that I wrote it down, I'm quite proud of myself. I need to go back and see this. Second year me was just very ambitious. And also, like, if you haven't worked in a community pharmacy, some things that you might not be familiar with, like the drug names, if the pharmacist tells you, go look for this, 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 and you're like, what the heck is that? You can write it down to remember for the next time. So yeah, that point about writing things down, do not forget to bring a book with you, because yeah, it just saves you a lot of stress and trouble in the future. Fourth point is about coming prepared, and to be fair, I think this point can go both ways. Obviously, when you come into a community pharmacy or any type of or going to hospital pharmacy or industry, if that's the first time you're there, you do not know what to expect. A lot of the times you're going to be learning and just absorbing as much information as you can, like being a sponge, right? But for example, say you're there for 2 weeks, right? The first week can very much be like, okay, like I'm coming, I'm as a sponge, I'm just understanding what's happening. Maybe if you're in first year, you might not be allowed to do a lot of like being at the counter and everything like that, right? But yeah, say for example, first week, you've done all of that, you've observed, you've been a sponge, you've listened, you've really taken it in, right? Your second week, you can, on the weekend or when you come home from placement, you can just like research the common drugs that you've seen and be able to understand them a lot better. And so this is where Picmonic comes in handy. So I want to give you guys an example of how I've used this app. When I went on placement in second year, my second placement that I went on in a community pharmacy, I recognized that the first time I went on placement, there were a lot of drugs that I had seen in lectures but hadn't really become that I hadn't really familiarized myself with them to the level that I should have. And as you go up in your degree, there's a certain level of expectation of like knowledge that you should have obtained or you should have remembered. Yeah, there's a certain level of expectation that you're expected to come in to just know. And for me, I struggled with that. And to put this on myself, and in order to ensure that I had a better placement experience, I came prepared. So what I did was I went on Picmonic, I searched beta blockers, and when I searched beta blockers, I saw a variety of different videos explaining not only the mechanism of beta blockers, but also doing it in a way that was easy to understand, easy to digest. And also at the end of the videos that I saw, there were questions that would assess my understanding. So multiple choice questions to really assess that, did I get this? Did I understand this? These are some examples of beta blockers. Can I apply this knowledge? And then being able to see that in the bigger context. So then when I went into a community pharmacy and I saw the different beta blockers, I was like, yes, I remember the mechanism is going to be to suppress adrenaline and noradrenaline from being transmitted like as a hormone in certain parts of the body. I was able to understand that, and then I got to see that the patients who would come would be the patients who had hypertension, and then on top of that, some of the hypertensive patients who are a little bit older, they might have polypharmacy. So I was like, okay, what are the other drugs that a lot of these hypertensive patients are also being prescribed? And like being able to see that and then go from that, being able to research, go from that, being able to do this. And so what I loved about Picmonic is that as a pharmacy student, it's such a great app to have. There's so many drugs that we're going to be expected to know and understand, but having head knowledge is one thing, but being able to apply it in a literal sense is something completely different.
Selective beta-1 blockers, depicted as the selective beta-1 beta-fish 1 wand with LOL blocks, are medications which work to prevent the actions of epinephrine and norepinephrine on the heart. These medications can be recalled by knowing that the drug names end in an -ol suffix, portrayed by the lolly. These medications are beta-1 selective, the beta-1 selective beta-fish with 1 wand, and work to decrease heart rate, contractility, and renin release. Specific drugs in this class include atenolol, the antenna lolly, The short-acting drug
Another thing that I had the privilege of being able to witness when I was on placement was being able to be at a pharmacy that had a methadone clinic. And what methadone is a man-made opioid that is very similar to like heroin, and so methadone is given to patients who are heroin dependent as something that like they can come in and it's controlled. And this patient, it was a supervised visit, so I was intrigued in obviously what methadone is and being able to learn more about it. So what did I do? Went on Picmonic, I wrote methadone, and what came up was looking at opioids, a video that summarized opioids for me in a very tangible, very patient friendly, but also using the technical terms that I would have to learn. But then there was also another video on opioid withdrawal, so I was able to look at that as well, and a few other videos, and they all came with quizzes. So not only was I engaged, did I ask questions, but I was also able to come prepared, so when the patient came in again I was able to understand their needs. So that's why I really like using Picmonic. I've used them a few times, I've spoken about them on my Instagram as well, in terms of like exam season and all of that stuff. But just in general, going on placement is such a great tool to have, to just help further equip you when going on placement. So yeah, I have been lucky enough to be given a code that gets you 20% off. So yeah, I'm going to put the link over here, but I'll also put the link in the description. So if you guys want to find out more about Picmonic, I would definitely recommend you doing that. So yeah. And then my final point, which is my fifth point, would just be to enjoy it. Placement is 2 weeks of tiring work. You are doing a lot of work, you are just going. And I say 2 weeks because mine was 2 weeks, but yours could be longer. It was 2 weeks in one sitting, 2 weeks in another sitting. But however long placement is, like if you're going to be there for 9 to 6 p.m, like if you're going to be there for the full day, you might as well be engaged, take part and just give yourself. I think I can't stress enough how much just being willing and being active helped me going when I went on placement. There's something about seeing someone engaged and seeing someone enjoy the work they're doing, that just, yeah, it's so infectious. And so I would recommend, that's like, if you took nothing from this video, I want to tell you that like just be present, be fully there and have a good time. Like you're there to learn, and I hope that like you being on placement can give you an insight to, could I actually do this in my future? Like, could I see myself in this setting? And so if you don't give it your all, how will you really know? If you give it your all and you're like, whoa, like this is really stretching my capacity, this is hard, this is, I don't know if I like this, at least you gave it your all, at least you could say that like, you know what, I proper put everything that I had in it. And then maybe it was good or maybe it was bad, but at least you know that like you proper went for it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching my video. Also guys, can we give it up for like my setup? Like it took me a while to get that set up, but as you guys can see, it's the Cool Farmer. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, I have a pharmacy account that's very like blog, it's giving blog. Somebody called it a blog and I was like, you know what, sure, let's call it that. My pharmacy blog, where I document my journey to becoming a hospital pharmacist, God willing. So yeah, you guys can check that out. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching my video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, I will put the link to Picmonic down there. But yeah, like, subscribe, do all of those amazing things, and I'll see you guys in my next video.